Dr. Bennett Joel is the president of Organizational Wellness and Learning Systems, also known as ALS. And one of the great things about ALS is they only use evidence-based approaches to promote organizational health and well-being. I have been lucky enough to be a student of Dr. Bennett's. I've been through his Resilience and Thriving training and his Empowered Health Consciousness training, as well as some of his leadership work. So I'm excited to pass things over to you, Joel. I'm going to let you really run the show from here, but I'm going to be helping run some of your polls. So I'll be paying attention so I can launch those for you. And you can launch them yourself as well, but I'm happy to do it in case you can't find it.
Okay, I'm good. But yeah, no, thanks so much, Chase, and welcome everybody. So I'm here with one of our coaches and co-authors, Dr. Ben Dilla, and another one of our coaches, Cynthia Canigliaro, who's also here and able to answer questions if you have any in the chat box. We're not going to do questions. We're just doing, well, we have Q&A as well. So whatever works for you. Without further ado, I'm going to share my deck, share my screen, and launch into a good, solid orientation to this well-being leadership certification. How will you lead your organization in uncertain times? We have this upcoming course that we're doing in conjunction with Wellbeing Think Tank. This will be the 6th cohort that we have been doing this class with since 2010, but it has, of course, evolved and changed with the times. So with that, last slide, I'm going to start with the same slide at the beginning, shows you that organizational wellness and learning systems means I'm organized. So just a little bit about us. This is a slide that conveys the variety of different types of organizations we have worked with. And you will see that indeed in the class itself, we've had such a diversity of participants who are in leadership, ranging from corporate, military, public health, union, economic development, food service, for example, TGI Fridays, Owens Corning, manufacturing, hotels. And we've also been recognized for our work because of the research we've been doing, including from the Surgeon General, the Department of Health and Human Services, and a number of different other organizations. So just a little bit about us. So what we're doing here and starting this whole conversation off, why are we here and what this is all about? And I'll just read it. The pandemic, racial strife, and various stressors associated with politics, the post-COVID environment, and decisions about remote hybrid work have placed enormous pressures on human resources and wellness coordinators to adapt and strategize. The old ways are not working, and it's always been the case that in wellness and well-being, we've had to be agile, but it's even more so now. And we've been anticipating this through some of the skills that we've been providing training for over many years. Having a solid well-being culture strategy, and that's asterisk there, having a solid well-being culture strategy can help with these concerns and improve recruitment, retention, and continued growth. Too often, during times of stress, we can take on more and put well-being on the back burner rather than lean in. And as we've been seeing, we've been doing mental health, psychological safety, and substance use prevention in the workplace since 1998, and have been doing work with these different organizations. So we're very familiar with the idea of creating a mentally healthy, psychologically safe work culture. And that's where this leadership training comes in. It's a course about leaning in. It's 18 hours. We provide HR and wellness professionals certifications. That's part of our relationship with Chase and Wellbeing Think Tank. So she can talk about later which kind of credits you can get. But it's really about a set of experiences, toolkit to enhance leadership and both personal and professional resilience. So I wanted to just begin with some of the research we've done. We asked over 150 business and organizational leaders to select the top 2 services they're most interested in to reduce employee health issues. So you can see here, this was the survey. And these were leaders, managers, directors from both the private sector and the public sector. And they went ahead and looked at each of these items: depression and stress coaching or counseling, managers training on stress, positive resilience and thriving, mind-body practices, education on sleep habits and sleep disorders, and the more generic communication, team building, and soft skills development. So I want to just ask you, what do you think was the #1 area that they selected? And it's a poll that we have open now. And Chase, I don't know if we have other people joining us, but I see we have about a dozen participants currently. And we can monitor the poll based on that. Thanks for launching the poll.
Yep, I gotcha. I'll monitor it, and we'll take maybe a couple more seconds here to capture the rest of everyone, and then I'll end the poll, share the results, and it'll just be easy for you to keep going.
Hey, we've got another participant. Somebody else came in. Great. So are we ready, Chase? Or
yes, I'm sharing the results right now. Can you not see them?
Yes. Can everyone see the results? Just, I don't know, can they raise their hand? It's a webinar, so they can just, yes, great, thank you. So the #1 that you said was coaching or counseling. And generally we're talking about employee assistance programs. And that was the majority, 64% of you said that. Next, 18% said manager training on stress, and we have 9% for positive resilience and thriving. Well, let's actually see what they said. This is their first choice and their second choice. So you were close. Manager training on stress is the #1, but close behind was depression and stress coaching or counseling. Now, resilience came in also there, and they're pretty close. You know, you can see these percentages are fairly close together. What we also learned in this same survey was that these leaders were spending on average, and we have the research we can share with you. It got published last year in the American Journal of Health Promotion. They spend 39% of their time having to deal with issues related to employees' mental health, stress, fatigue, and substance use, anxiety. They're dealing with this because of the impact of COVID and because of what some people consider to be increased sensitivity to mental well-being issues. So, of course, they would want these 2 particular programs. What we do is help you lead and help build a relationship with leaders so that you can address all of these issues that we're seeing here on the screen. So the objectives of this course are, first, it's a competency-based program to be a leader of cultural resilience and to demonstrate these competencies in day-to-day work practices, where it's a very practice-oriented course, and you're going to be seeing some of the participants from the past courses share their experience. We're also talking about creating a climate of resilience and mental well-being, also recognizing one's current and desired strengths in the areas of leadership, resilience, emotional intelligence, and consulting. And also there's a lot of self-assessments around really listening and communication. So it's a very rich well-being and leadership course. It's a combination of those two core practices. The full syllabus is available. I think Cynthia will put in the chat box where you can access and download the syllabus, and so you can learn more. But we're not going to be getting so much into that as to make sure you understand and we answer your questions about why. Why is this so important? So here's an example of a previous participant that you'll see in a moment that we've served a range of leaders from a range of industries. This is David Jakes. He's the executive director of Vision LLC. And he said that, as you can see here, the Wellbeing Leadership course helped me reflect. Wellness is really not, in its purest form, about a program. Many processes and values I already held dearly could be the cornerstone of any wellness undertaking. And as you learn about what we're doing here, one of the key areas of our work is integrating personal growth with wellness design. And what you're seeing expressed here from an executive director is that they learned that it was about their leadership. It wasn't about the program only. It was about their own values and the processes that were already in place that only needed to be leveraged or tweaked as a well-being design strategy. So that's, by the way, this is a behavioral health organization. This is from somebody who works at an energy company, Amanda Edelmeyer, Culture Development Lead at Battelle Energy Alliance. This class has been transformational. The social architecture model and practice of humble inquiry have been my biggest aha moments. Learning of my hidden self has been very beneficial for my growth and curiosity. So here, this is the area of embodiment and realization. People who go through this course, as you'll see with our research we'll share at the end, really have a sort of awakening to the importance of their own leadership in their life and how their internal authenticity, their internal set of values, their moral compass is part of being an effective well-being leader. This is from the executive director of the wellness program for Ohio University, very large organization. I feel re-energized for this work, validated that I'm not crazy. Capitalistic wellness can be toxic, but this approach is uplifting and engaging in a non-toxic way. Just what I needed for my place of business and for me to find a new spark that was dormant within. So the reason that I wanted to, we have many quotes from many different individuals who have participated in our program. The thing that we heard here and that we've seen in other people who've taken the course is that many people at a higher level in a corporate or large organization feel that they're just dealing with vendors, they're just managing the tools, the programs, and forgetting about a more authentic, genuine approach, an engaging approach. So this is authenticity. And that's another key area that people who take the course come to, is this importance of being their authentic self, which to me is the cornerstone of leadership. So now let's look a little bit more at the why. You know, last year and even more recently, we've been hearing about the Great Resignation, which I believe is the great disconnect, current political and racial schisms that have continued to be even lately in the news. And what we believe is that this is the tip of the iceberg, that there's something else going on underneath that's not being addressed. It's certainly not being addressed by wellness. We think it's time that well-being and wholeness come to the forefront if we're going to really make an impact in the workplace. So this is a 2021 McKinsey & Company, but the same thing we have seen since then, this disconnect between how employers see things and how employees see things. 65% of employers report that employee mental health is supported well or very well, whereas only 51 of employees agree with that. And that gap has gotten actually larger. 77% of employers with frontline employees report supporting mental health well or very well. Only 27% of employees agree. I'm not going to go through all of this other data. I just think that the most important thing that we need to address is that while people are implementing things like workplace stigma programs, mental health first aid, these programs are in place, but what they're not enough, and that employees need more. That's what they're telling us. So there's this great disconnect that really should be the word we're using or the term we're using, not the great resignation. This is from my colleague, Alex Alonso at the Society for Human Resource Management. More than 1 year into COVID, US workers say burnout persists. Again, this data is a little bit old, but it has not changed. And that's the point here, is that we've known about this, but there's not really any systematic effort happening. And we believe that leadership, well-being leadership, is the way. 59% leave work feeling exhausted, 30% dread going to work, 26% do not feel emotionally safe at work, 30% say their workplace culture makes them irritable at home. Large, many thousands of respondents to this survey. People are leaving and not returning. So again, I can go through all the stats. There is a problem, and that's what we're doing here. Now, what's so important, because we work with mental health, and we're going to give you the solution here in a second, is that companies are increasingly relying on market-based interventions. They're looking at mental health apps, they're looking at mental health strategies, but they're not focusing on their internal culture. This is from STAT, the blind spots of blitzscaling in mental health tech. And I will tell you, millions of dollars are being spent on Wall Street to advance mental health technology, millions of dollars. We know that it's not going to be possible to scale a solution to this mental health crisis, addiction crisis that we're in. We know that EAP wellness programs are limited by themselves. And we know that the marketplace by itself, it cannot scale the solution. We know that the work of finding therapists, and we work with therapists, they're leaving in droves. There's not enough therapists around. So in addition to the difficulty of scaling this strategy, challenges to avoid doing harm, not realizing that mental health is also a social justice issue, and all of these things, there's an ignoring of the work culture. So really what we're talking about here is this underlying problem throughout the country of deaths of despair, dying for a paycheck, burnout, mental health crisis, the opioid crisis being just another example of how people are being disconnected. Social determinants in the United States culture foster workaholism. There are limits in the insurance sector and pharmaceutical industrial complex for addressing these issues. The stigma of self-care continues, especially failures to care for healthcare providers. And I know, because I'm in touch with people who are issuing grants from the federal government, that there has been more and more funding coming out of the federal government to help healthcare providers with their mental health. And there's been a continued marginalization of mental health benefits. All of this is associated with a loss of compassion to the psychic pain that's occurring. Now, what do you think, right? What do you think is really the problem? We really are looking here. So I have another poll, and my hope is that we use this poll to generate some discussion through the chat box. So If you had to select one strategy for employers to reduce the mental health crisis, what would you select? Increase mental health benefits, offer internal mental health leadership training, create a healthy work culture, launch an anti-stigma campaign, or completely redesign how human resources operates. And if you don't mind, put in the chat box why you shared what you did. We are always wanting to interact. So we'll leave this open for a little while and see what people say. So if you selected create a healthy work culture, why? And you can put that in the chat box, correct, Chase?
Yes, absolutely. I see someone is answering now.
Okay, so Danielle, right?
Our results.
So Danielle, I picked culture because without a healthy work culture, you'll never really fix or prevent anything. So if you agree with that, raise your hand, or add in more as to why you think that's the case. Who would like to add to this comment? And the reason I'm asking is that everybody talks about healthy work culture. Talk, 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 okay? But what does it really mean when you answer that question? Yes, we agree. So yeah, restructuring HR, okay, is part of that. So my question is, for those who selected redesign how HR operates, what would be the first thing you would do? How would you go about redesigning human resources to create a healthy work culture? Currently, with one of our clients, I can give you an example of one of the things that we're doing, but I'm curious to see if anyone has to contribute to that. You can't, thank you, Patty, you can't fix one aspect of wellness on its own. The whole culture needs to evolve. Perfect. So one of the things that we're doing is we're helping an HR department conduct stay interviews. And the stay interviews are integrated with wellness, so that when the interview is being conducted, we're using one of the tools you'll learn about in the course, Humble Inquiry, to make sure that the stay interview isn't just about the stay interview, but it's about connection. It's about authentic connection. So Humble Inquiry is one of the tools that we're using to evolve that culture. Danielle says, have supervisor performance be at least in part assessed by their supervision. In other words, employees having a voice, yes, and HR actually providing resources to address those issues to truly improve supervisor performance. That's exactly right, Danielle. And that's what we're partly doing with these stay interviews. Like, it's as you know, stay interviews are confidential. So they allow the HR or whoever it happens to be doing the interview to collect that information and then provide advice. And then in a confidential way, make sure that that supervisory performance is assessed and addressed. So perfect, Danielle. Okay, let's move on. Great comments so far. I'm hoping that you will share more as we move along to other polls. So do we just close this poll? Oh, well, we have another, Michelle. Healthy work culture starts with leadership. Thank you. C-level leadership needs to take part in creating solutions. This can't be an employee issue or an HR issue. I also believe there needs to be training from the top down. There are many untrained and toxic attitudes in leadership positions. Yeah, what can I say, Michelle? Hence this course. So okay, great. Chase, do I just go on now?
Yeah, you're good. I stopped sharing the polls, so I think you're good.
Great, thanks so much, guys. So healthy work culture, redesign HR. So it's obvious that it takes more than just benefits. So the course itself is 1.5 hours of group sessions. You get actual personal coaching. There's personal feedback on Clifton Strengths. Ben is a certified coach. You get copies of books. You'll be seeing more about that. You engage in between session buddy coaching. You complete a brief final exam, which is an open book. And there are other discounts that you'll be hearing about as we move along. You'll receive each of these 5 books. So you have this library that you will receive, and you'll be asked to do a poll around what each of these books are. I would like, Ben, if you can you share briefly about Best Self at Work? Because that is such an important part. And in fact, you can hear it in the essays that you saw at the beginning, how people were really getting in touch with that. Ben, can you share just quickly about what Best Self at Work is about?
Certainly. Your Best Self at Work was a collaboration of Joel and mine, published in 2021, looking at the intersection of strengths and emotional intelligence, and the fact that many of us, I think, in the well-being area and in leadership development, know how important it is to leverage our strengths. But there's a gap in the strengths literature around how does that work in uncertain, difficult, challenging times. And that was where we tapped into the knowledge on the emotional intelligence as well as resilience practices, which comes out of another book, Raw Coping Power. And so we look at how those things work together and how you need emotional intelligence to really fine tune your strengths, to dial up, dial down strengths appropriate to the situation.
Yes, it's really amazing how these 2 different areas of leadership development, emotional intelligence and strengths-based training, Gallup and Clifton being one of the leaders, they don't talk to each other as much. And what we find is that emotional self-regulation, having social intelligence is important to understand which strengths you need to dial up and which strengths you need to dial down. So some people can be very good at connecting and like to connect and always want to connect, but there are certain situations where that needs to be dialed down. And so that's what Best Self at Work is about.
And Joel, the biggest book in this lineup, although physically it's actually the smallest, is The Connoisseur of Time. It's the latest. And it really would tower above all these others. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Before I do, though, there's a poll. I don't want to give it all away, right? So bear with us and we'll get there. But Ben, that was a great cue up. But every one of these, you don't have to read them all in the course. There are some reading assignments. But so let's go ahead and see which skill set is most important for you, do you think personally, to navigate the current terrain of stress? If you had to pick one skill set, would it be practicing presence, helping others tap into their strengths, building a well-being champion strategy, knowing how to do that, leading with authenticity, listening more and helping others do the same, or transforming stress into thriving? And we also have with us one of our other coaches today, who I'm so excited she's here. And well, look at the poll, Faith, and then I'd love for you, Faith, if you don't mind, to give us your interpretation of the poll so people can get to know you. But let's get the poll finished here. We still have a few more minutes.
I hit the X button on the poll on accident, so I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, well, you'll see it. You'll see the results in a minute.
Okay, perfect.
No pressure, Faith.
Yeah, no pressure, Faith.
0.
So I guess Chase will leave it open for another moment here. So Faith, can you see it now?
I sure can, yes, with the results.
What do you think it means? Say hi and tell people who you are.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Faith Geiger, and I am an executive or an integral coach. I'm a psychotherapist and a consultant in the areas of workplace culture and the employee experience. And I am a champion and advocate and seeker of Joel's wisdom and brilliance. And so I'm honored to be part of this group and part of this upcoming cohort. Yeah, that's me. And then the question, am I responding to this particular skill set that we need to navigate the current terrain of stress?
What do you think it says about the people who are listening, and how do you interpret these results?
Oh, so what it tells me about the people that are listening.
You're muted all of a sudden.
Well,
Anyway.
I am seeing, yeah, it's jumping back and forth depending on who the speaker is. Well, that there is a desire or an already existing understanding of spiritual health in the journey of navigating stress. So people who are aware that it's either helpful in their lives or that they understand that it's part of our overall well-being and being with stress. And yeah, that's my biggest takeaway, mostly because that's the highest answer. And then certainly they're helping professionals. There are people that want to help, that are giving, that are very loving, and probably pour themselves into others and into the environment.
Beautiful. Yeah, so thank you, Faith. Chase, if you can leave this up, can people see the poll and the books in the background at the same time? If you move the poll around, is that possible? Just say yes if you can see both. Just raise your hand, go, yes, I can see both.
Yeah, I don't know what people can see, so.
I can see both, and I can move the poll window to see what's behind it more.
Okay, so let me walk through everyone. Of course, practicing presence is about the connoisseur of time. And you can go ahead and download the book at no cost right now from www.presencequest.life, and we'll put that in the chat box. That's the presence one. Helping others tap into their strengths. Of course, Ben already talked about that, the best self at work. Building a well-being champion strategy, our well-being champion competency-based guidebook, is a very core structure to the entire course. Leading with authenticity is heart-centered leadership. Listening more and really listening in this very powerful way is humble inquiry. And then transforming stress into thriving is raw coping power. So if you, for whatever reason, can't make it to the class, if these skill sets are important to you, these books will help. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to make sure that you understood what this is about. So I'll move along now to a little bit more. You've already seen and heard from our coaches. Cynthia's here as well. So we've already done this poll. So prior to session 1, here's how it works. Participants complete a self-assessment of their current competency levels as a potential or actual leader for a healthy workplace culture. So we have, from years of doing this, identified core competencies that are in this very small book. This self-assessment allows you to gauge your needs and serves as a baseline for the course. So it's a very evidence-based, evidence-informed model. The areas covered include the competencies listed in our Wellbeing Champions book, but also in the Clifton Strengths. So the whole group, what's really wonderful, gets a full profile of how the whole group is. And we highly encourage you to bring partners, colleagues, team members. We find that people get great value from the class if they're going through it with a colleague and share these profiles with each other. So very quickly, the course is based on this foundational area where these 3 competencies: make the commitment, know infrastructure and resources, gaining support. And I will tell you that gaining support, and you'll see this in our results, people learn. Someone talked about getting leadership. I forget who it was in the chat box, about making sure it's top down and making sure that people are involved. You don't have to be a top high level leader to be a leader. And what we find is that people who take this course, and you're going to see a video clip from one of our line level supervisors in a moment, how they talk to their supervisor, how they talk to their manager is the secret to changing the culture. It's one of the secrets that when you have an employee who feels like they're a champion, which is what this course does, they now have more confidence. They now are able to inspire from the bottom up. So what we're talking about, it's not just always top down, and leadership can happen from the inside out. So that's foundational in terms of the competencies. These are our competencies. The next level is readiness, learning how to plan, how to build partnerships to enhance climate. We've been doing workplace climate research for over 20 years. And climate is an easier way to go about changing the culture. So we have a number of climate assessments that you learn how to use in the class, and people are required to do some climate assessment to get feedback on how to interpret and to share those results. Then there's action, communicating well, and then growing ambassadors and then scalability. So if you're in a large organization of any size and you want to have a wellness committee at the smallest level, but you might have a whole ambassador strategy. We've worked with large healthcare systems and multi-employer funds to do ambassador training. So there are ways to scale. This is also culture. How do you scale your wellness culture through ambassadors, communication, climate, gaining support? So it's a very systematic approach. Foundation, make sure you're ready, take action, and then realization. So this has to do with learning how to evaluate and now how to celebrate. So what we've done in our work, and we always do this, is we assess these at the beginning and we assess them toward the end to look at progress. And this is from a recent cohort where we saw these improvements on these scales. These are not just single items. And I want to point out here some of the biggest strides that were made. It's really amazing to me that we're able to see this increase in knowing the infrastructure and the resources, even from people who have been involved, directors of wellness. They take the time to know what are our resources, what are our infrastructure. Again, gaining support, communicating well, growing ambassadors, and evaluating. But you'll notice everything improves, everything improves. In addition, those areas, the foundational area, readiness, personal growth, creating connections, embodiment, and realization. The largest improvement is in readiness. People come out of this training feeling so much more prepared to change the culture. And then finally, the reflecting backward, we find, and we found this in our earlier research, increased self-efficacy, increased confidence, increased competence. So this works, and it works because it's systematic, because we have great coaches, because we're resting on a body of literature that's foundational. So I'm going to play, and then we'll leave it open if we have more questions here. The reason I wanted to share this is that, as I said, and we have others I could share, you can be executive director, you can be the director of a wellness program, right? You can be the culture lead, but you can also come to this class as a shift leader, as a line level supervisor. I hope you can hear Blanca. If you don't know about Arians, they're a manufacturing company located centrally in Wisconsin, but have plants all over. And just listen to how she shares what she learned from the class.
I've learned from my coaches that of my strengths and trust, and always speak from the heart. And whatever I do, whatever task, wherever I am and go, always be genuine. And this class has helped me in everything. Not only my work, it's helped me talk better to other people, help them understand. Even from my my boss, he gave me he says that my strengths are being level-headed and problem solver, confident, and he said that I am an approachable person. People do come to me.
Sorry.
Not only people that I work with, other people come to me. So I'm glad that I've joined this class and had fun meeting all my peers, and hope to continue.
So I hope you could hear her. Just to give you an example, and she joined with a number of her coworkers who were more employee level, line level. Nina had a question. Nina, can you open up your mic, or is that possible, or is it only chat?
I don't believe so, because we're in webinar mode, so I don't think our participants can.
Okay, so her question, let me see it again. I see it there. What's the
Great question, Joel. Yeah, how are the competencies measured? So obviously people might sign up for this course and they want to know how are you really going to measure their improvements?
Right. So I don't have my copy of the champion book just here right now. I have every other one, but in the book, we go into detail and have items. There's actually, I think, 3 to 4 self-report items for each of these dimensions here. So people are asked to reflect on how much they, for example, an item might be, I'm committed and I can get others to commit to this initiative. So that would be assessed at the beginning, before the class begins, and then toward the end. For gaining support, I know how to speak to my supervisors to get them engaged with this initiative, right? So that would be an example. That's how those are measured in those items. But in addition, we also look at these other objectives. And at the beginning of the class, they're also asked to state their intention very clearly, and they have a list of intentions. And at the end of the class, which is 8 to 12 weeks, well, it's about 8, depending, 8 to 10 weeks later. Here, I'll go actually.
I've learned from my.
Yes, you can see it's 8 weeks roughly. But they come back to their intentions and they look at how much they were able to realize those intentions. So there are a number of ways that they're assessed. In addition, they work with the coaches. So the coaches also help them assess how they're doing qualitatively. So it's not just quantitative, it's also qualitative. So Nina, let me know if that answers your question or if you had more to that. That's a great question. Any other questions? I hope that answered your question, Nina. Well,
yeah, Jill, I think it'd be helpful to explain to maybe people who are considering taking this course, what's the difference between this and some of the other, there's a lot of like workplace wellness certifications out there. There's some that are done online. There's some that are just a weekend. There's some that are one-day workshop. And what I think is really interesting about your course and what attracted me to it is that it's because it's so comprehensive, that it is 8 weeks, that you have all of this support with you, with Ben, with Faith, with Cynthia. It's very comprehensive. And so I think that's something to maybe remark on. For those of you who maybe do have an HR background, there are some HR credits available with this. Most of us as wellness professionals, or maybe you're new to workplace wellness, this is kind of, you don't have to get continuing education credits. But they can be really helpful. But I do think this course is really different with how it's structured. And you can see that in the syllabus. So I think the syllabus is really helpful.
I mean, you said it. I mean, we are not just creating an opportunity for build their competencies. You're also getting an opportunity to be part of a transformational community. People come to this class who might be actually struggling. And you sort of heard that in one of the earlier comments, working with toxic wellness, right? Working with a culture that's not healthy. So it's not something you can get from an online, right? You're not going to get that kind of level of support. So the comprehensiveness is not just that it's competency-based, but also that you have support. It's an honor to work with Cynthia, Ben, and Faith, and we have other coaches as well as needed, who really are very well practiced in their support of executives, of leaders, and have been doing it for a while. So that's the other thing, Chase. We're not spring chickens here. Right.
Well, I think, Joel, what I would add to that is what's unique about this program is community. For example, we heard from Blanca, who was with Arians. Arians had 7 or 8 people who were part of their well-being leadership team, if you will. And so as they were going through the program, they were growing together and making plans for their program. And they had the benefit of the broader community of other participants in the program, as well as their connection with each of us as coaches and facilitators. So that's something that I think is unique in the way this program is conducted, including the coaching component along the way.
Yeah.
I agree. Sorry, Joel. I was going to say, just as kind of an outsider, the reason why I like it too is it's almost like a well-being training for yourself, as well as what you can take back to the organization. And so as wellness professionals, a lot of times we don't put ourselves first. I'm very guilty of that myself, as you all know. But this kind of helps us build up our own well-being and our own leadership potential. How do we become leaders in ourselves? And then that also helps us take it back to the workplace and really be effective leaders there. And I do feel like that's a huge difference between the training and some other trainings is that focus.
Well, it goes back to that point from earlier that it starts with leadership, right? In this case, you're the leaders. You're the leaders of these programs. And so it starts with your own personal wellness.
And, I want to also ask if Cynthia and Faith have anything to add, but I do note that Chase is going to be with us. And Chase has an extraordinary skill set when it comes to integrating benefits and benefits knowledge and managing that as it relates to a wellness culture. So you're really going to get a whole lot more. So there's not only community and competency and compassion, there's also the practice side. And that's why it also takes as long as it does, because you're given time between sessions to practice, and then you come back and you tell and share. And it becomes very real for many people. But I was wondering, Cynthia or Faith, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I just would add the class is fabulous. One thing I wanted to note is that basically the participants kind of cross all levels of the organization. We've had wellness directors, project managers, all different areas of the organization. So as Joel had just mentioned, definitely reach out to your colleagues, because we found it to be really effective when we had people from the same organization. Having said that, please feel free to join on your own. That works too. But it's just really, really interesting. I think it's been fascinating to see the evolution of the participants from the beginning to the end. They learned so much. There's so much to this class. It's almost hard to even begin to describe it. So, hopefully today was helpful for you, but please reach out to us if you want more specifics. We have past students who will talk with you gladly, but it's just really a great class.
Faith, anything?
Nothing that hasn't been shared. I will, I guess, underscore Chase's point about, you know, the transformation really does happen within, although, you know, we're going into this certification to learn what we can do in our workplace and in the environment. And really there's so much change that's happening within, which actually propels the other tools forward, because you have a different relationship with it. You have a felt sense of the change. So you can advocate for the work differently. You can champion the work differently because you actually have had the experience of change yourself. I want to just underscore her point.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. I mean, it's just human experience of leadership, right? And authenticity. I mean, it gets pretty real when we're about in the middle of the course. People start talking about real issues, and that's the other thing. It's a safe environment. That's the other thing that we're able to do. You know, Cynthia, Faith mentioned she's a psychotherapist. Cynthia has a social work background, so you know, and I've been doing coaching and counseling. So it's living it. It's not just learning it. It's also living it. Yeah, thanks, Chase. That was wonderful for queuing that up.
You're welcome. And then obviously not everyone who registered today could make it. So I know, Dr. Bennett, you've recorded this. And so I'm sure your team will be following up with everyone who registered. So feel free to reach out to them directly with questions. I'm sure Cynthia would set up a time to chat with you one-on-one. I know I've had many opportunities to chat with her one-on-one, and she's also just a lovely human to meet. So she can tell you more information about the class and if it works for you. And I know I'll just share a couple tips and tricks. If you happen to have, if you're working at a workplace, I think the syllabus is a great thing to take and show to your manager, and maybe see if you can get some learning and development dollars. And I think, Cynthia, I know, hopefully I don't get my hand smacked for saying this, but I know if you need maybe a payment arrangement, that can happen as well, because you're making an investment in your education. And I know I had the opportunity to talk to Joel and Cynthia and was like, oh, I've taken courses before where I could make a payment. It's really helpful, especially if maybe you're self-employed or you're a coach. You know, you really want to do these things to expand your education. But yeah, as Wellbeing Think Tank, I just thought that this was a great opportunity to partner with Dr. Bennett and his team. Again, I've been a student of his, so I just think it's a really great comprehensive training. So I just wanted to be a part of helping to promote that. So thank you all so much for attending. If no one else has any other questions or feedback, I just really came on to launch the Zoom. This is really Dr. Joel's show. So yeah.
No, it's a community. It's a community. So one last thing, for whatever reason, if you can't make it this time, we have many other offerings. Please check out Presence Quest. You can download the book at no cost. Go ahead and start on any way that you can. The books are there. So we wanted to support you in your journey at any point, wherever you're at, and hopefully you'll use these tools. Don't hesitate. Cynthia is lovely to talk to. She will be your bestie, and she uses that term with everybody. I'm your bestie for life. Thanks, everybody.